Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowes.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Steering wheel. Lots of steering wheel here. Give me steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
You like my bass? You like it?
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From our radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the hangar straight.
I am so annoyed.
Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 938, the Monaco Grand Prix, or as some relatives of Paul's might say, the Monaco Grand Prix. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
Oh my, you know what we do on race weekends?
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
That's exactly what we do. And we're going to do that tonight. We're going to talk about the Monaco Grand Prix and all of its glory. But before doing that, of course, I've got to go find a real race car driver. You may know him as the sporting manager of the Heart of Racing Aston Martin team in IMSA. Well, they've gone global. It's key to his name.
From out of the way, Snap. He's bad. He's beautiful. He's crazy. It's...
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles, the International.
You're international, Paul.
I am.
You are.
But, you know, I don't have a toff in my family, so there's no
Okay.
Monacos.
No Monacos.
anywhere.
Okay, I didn't know.
No.
I thought maybe somewhere a distant relative.
No. We're all just commoners.
Just a hearty lot from Essex.
Yeah. And Kent.
And Kent. Yes, of course.
Yes.
How can we forget Kent? All of our brothers and
You can't
sisters in
forget
Kent. Come on.
That's right.
Oh, man. You know, it's not the Cotswolds, darn it. It's Kent. Have you been to the Cotswolds, Paul?
I have not.
Really?
Really?
No, I find that interesting.
Yeah, we never really went on holiday in England.
Yeah.
We went abroad, you know.
Did you go to Tenerife or...
Tenerife, yeah.
Tenerife, yeah.
Went, Greece.
Yeah, Greece.
Yeah. Spain.
Monaco.
France. Monaco, yes. Did go there once. South France was a popular one. Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you never went to Slough or Leeds or Manchester.
Oh, but no one goes to holiday in Slough. Sorry.
Or Stevenage.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely
Good
not.
for you.
They might be in hiding in Slough or Stevenage, but definitely not on holiday.
Right. Right. Oh my. Well, Paul, we had a rip-roaring Monaco Grand Prix this weekend.
We sure do. Yeah. The race weekend of the year, right?
Yes.
You got MotoGP, you got Indy 500, you got Monaco. It just doesn't end.
I know.
And there's a NASCAR race supposedly.
Yeah. Marcus Ericsson disqualified.
Disqualified just as well. He didn't win. That would have been a real downer.
That would have been a real downer. Yeah, had he won. But Alex Palou, great pulling off the Indy 500 victory. Good for him.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I mean, that guy is phenomenal.
Yeah, he is. He's fantastic.
Should be in Formula One, but it's hard to know where he'd fit in.
Yeah,
but one of the best drivers in the world, really.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Sure.
Great. Yes, been around since 1950, has Monaco. Been around a long time, qualifying Lando Norris setting a lap record of 109 and change. Whew, that's quick. That's quick around the Principality. Is it me?
Not bad.
I don't want to get on a tangent here, but I've been watching Formula One for decades, and I've been watching Monaco Grand Prix for decades. It just doesn't look like Princess Charlene's that happy. I don't know why.
I wasn't really looking at her, honestly.
No.
No,
I've watched her for several years stand back. She just doesn't look happy. I feel like I could sit down over a glass of Westmalle or Chimay and really kind of talk it out, you know?
Okay.
But it's on offer.
Maybe put it on offer. Yeah,
it's on offer. Surely
tuning in.
Yeah. Prince Albert can't be always a dream to be with, but and I'm not. I'm
that's
married.
probably
I'm not,
more like it.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm married. I'm just saying we could have a good shinwag session.
You're not suggesting anything.
No, I'm not suggesting anything like that.
Okay, you're not trying to make a move.
No, I'm happily married. But,
fair enough.
But I am saying I think we could talk about. We could solve some of that.
Okay,
including the biggest talking point heading into this weekend. I mean, this is a bit of an elephant in the room, right? So let's do a little formation lap, do a little table setting. What was the big talking point heading into this weekend at the Monaco Grand Prix? Well, it had to be the two-stop rule, Paul.
Had to be.
The two-stop.
So much chatter.
Yeah.
So much
to talk about. Yeah. So, look, hindsight's 2020, right? And I appreciate all the criticism of the system post-race. But to be fair, there was a lot of excitement about it leading into the race from Sky F1 and the commentary, F1 media outlets. I mean, I'm not saying they were blissfully ignorant. It wasn't that kind of excitement. They ran all kinds of spicy permutations of what could happen. Oh, this would be great, and the strategy, and they were excited about it, and they like anyone, they were intrigued to kind of see how this developed. And I certainly wasn't any sort of Delphic oracle saying, "Oh, guffaw, this will never work. This is going to be," I was as much intrigued as anyone else to see how it might play out. But I kind of had the same focus on the issues, and you and I were texting with Grace kind of back and forth leading into the weekend. Paul says, "All right, how many cars do you think are going to box on the first lap?" And, Paul...
I think I won.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did. But in fairness, I can't speak for Grace, but I was kind of trying to be optimistic about it. Paul was reading the tea leaves pretty well. He kind of knew this was going to be the case. But having said all that, much of those elements I was focused on too. Like most things in F1, teams are always going to exploit every rule, and so the RBs and Williams did so, and much to their success. Others like Mercedes and stuff, not so lucky. And to be fair, it was a strategy challenge that also relied on other teams to reveal their strategy. And, while it wasn't perfect and probably not a great success by anyone's measure, it might be worth tweaking, or especially with next year's cars and regulations and no DRS and the kind of elements that the next year's cars, will that change things a little? Something to look at. I think Jonathan Wheatley kind of said it best when he said the race was shaped more by the rules than pure racing. But, the counter argument might be, well, Monaco is difficult to deliver pure racing, And so that's one of the...
With the bigger the cars, the harder it is, right?
Yeah.
The cars have just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And it is difficult. And so, to be fair, I went back to a few media outlets. They were just glowing and all excited about the strategy thing. And then after the race, they're like, "Oh, we knew this wouldn't work." And it's kind of like, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's, be fair to your readers on this. All right. And I'm saying mea culpa. I was going out with some optimism, and I thought, well, this might be interesting. It could throw a curveball in there. Certainly teammates and, boxing early. You and I were chatting about it. I mean, you knew those elements were capable, but anyway, and I don't want to just come out post race saying, "Oh my gosh, worst thing ever," and blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, you might be, in my case, Paul, may not be yours because you're a race car driver, but in my case, you may be asking the wrong guy on how to fix Monaco, because I love Monaco for what it represents in challenge to the drivers. And I enjoy a boring Monaco as much as I do an exciting wet Monaco or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge to do a lap, and it's a bigger challenge to do 75 laps without making a mistake. At pace. Yeah. At pace,
which Paul pointed out. I said, to do that, you look at what Oscar did. I mean, he toyed with the Armcos all weekend, and it just takes this much, and then you're Kimi Antonelli and you're in the wall, right? And but you pointed out, Paul, but when you're 5 seconds off the pace, it's a little easier to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel a bit more for the people that were there watching. If they were watching, I think some comments were like, "Well, 98% of the people are drunk, falling off the boats. And they're not really. They're there for the event rather than there to watch a race."
Right.
So maybe I don't feel so bad. But I mean, if the cars are running that week off the pace, then it's probably not much of a spectacle.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
If there's no partying going on too,
Yeah, exactly. So. Well, I thought before we get into team review, I took it upon myself just to go out and sort of read some of the commentary around the interwebs about suggested ways to improve it, because I think a lot of the people that were negative about the two-stop and its impact, and there were drivers and team bosses that weren't happy with it, and
even from my side. We didn't know what was actually going to happen.
Right.
There's so many ways you can read and interpret the rules and how the teams were going to run, and then what each team scenario blends into another team scenario and how they affect each other.
Yeah.
We didn't know, and I know people are saying it's a bit of a. I actually kind of enjoyed it how the tactics rolled out and who played them good and bad. That's. Maybe it's part of my job as in a racing team myself. That's something we have to work behind the scenes to try and give ourselves a place to be, right? And or the best result we can get. And so I appreciated how the teams were doing that and which teams were successful and not. So it wasn't like I hated this race actually.
No, I didn't either.
Even though maybe it's not the ideal race, but then as you say, Monaco isn't. If you're coming here to see 100 passes, then you're coming to the wrong race. Go to another one.
Right.
If you're there to see cars basically that shouldn't be racing in these narrow streets but still pulling it off, then hell yeah, let's go watch it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very much like you. I was thinking it could be interesting because in order to get, you would have had multiple strategies, what ifs, and all the kind of things, permutations of plan A through Z, right? And a lot of that depended on what we didn't see, which was a safety car or red flag or something like that, which have really, overturned the apple cart there. But there was a lot of permutations, but some of those were dependent upon where you qualified. If you had two cars that qualified nose to tail, mid-pack or better, then maybe that teammate building gaps like with RB that worked to a treat. Other teams that had cars separated, like Max and Yuki was not in a position to really help, right? And so what does that strategy look like, and how could that play out? And some of those strategies were a sort of wait and see what other team strategies do, and whether we can undercut or overcut or what, So I think tactically or strategically anyway, I think it was a real challenge for the teams. And I didn't hate it. I just, but I understand the criticism. I was doing a little bit of searching, and I was looking online because after the race, of course, everybody's in full outrage mode, and they have all these different ideas on how to improve, and lots of people just saying Monaco should never be on the calendar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is par for the course. I got to stay off the interweb. So I made a list of 9 of the suggestions that I read. These aren't mine. They're just suggestions that I've read that people have offered up. The first one is, and I think maybe George Russell maybe suggested something similar to this, to shift the focus to qualifying, since qualifying is the main spectacle, was to introduce 2 qualifying sessions, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, and then pay points out for 5 points for P1, 3 points for P2, that kind of thing, down to P3. So the people on the top 3 positions get points. That kind of concept is what.
Now, are they suggesting that you still actually have a race?
Yes.
Or that's all you're going to do?
No, there's a race.
I thought George was saying just do qualifying because that's what people want.
Well, you may have.
And do away with the race.
Yeah, you may have. There are like 2 races then.
Right. Yeah. I was hoping we weren't just going to go to Monaco and watch a qualifying session and go home. Right.
Yeah. So it's a sprint format.
Yeah, it depends what people want. Nowadays everyone wants the short fix, or the quick euphoria. And Monaco has never been that way. It's been a long game the whole time, much like endurance racing is, right? And some people like that, some people don't. But yeah, the build-up of Monaco used to, when there was a lot more, retirements and mistakes and things like that. It was like, what's going to happen next? But, so anyway.
Yeah, the second one was a time-based race format. I think it was Toto Wolff who sort of suggested a maximum lap time could be adapted. But anyway, a time lapse. So instead of, you convert it to a time-based format, instead of 78 laps, it'd be like 90 minutes with a minimum lap time to prevent deliberate slowing was a concept.
Kind of like the FCY, where you can't go too slow. Oh, like they have now for the qualifying, where there's a minimum lap time.
Yeah, like a minimum lap time, which I could see would get just a bunch of penalties.
I think.
And a lot of people trying to explain, well, I had to go slow because, this and
how excited would that be?
Yeah, that would be really exciting. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who got what penalty? Oh, he did? I didn't know he went slow. Then there was via a drawing, it would be randomized tire allocations.
Yes.
So you randomly assign tire compounds to each driver for the race. So some would start on soft, other on hard, some on mediums, whatever.
Right. But is that the problem, though, at Monaco?
Well, they're thinking, I think maybe they were thinking that the tire delta difference would be really great. But this isn't a high degradation circuit, so I don't know that it would be.
So if anyone's backing off, it doesn't matter what tire rubber they have.
Yeah.
And the teams would never okay it because it could go in their benefit, could go against them, and they'd rather everything be even.
So. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the concept.
Yeah, I get the concept. I just don't know that. I don't know that the deltas.
Random. The word random is not.
People don't like
not
random.
taken well in Formula One.
They don't like random at all.
No.
And I just don't think the tire performance delta between compounds is that great at Monaco. So
it wasn't.
So Pirelli would have to look at increasing that, which is a whole different deal. Expanded DRS zones, number 4, add a second DRS zone possible on this straight from turn 1 to turn 3 at Massenet. Make where the track is a little slightly wider, that could create some marginal opportunities for somebody who's got an attachment.
I mean, they could put DRS in whenever you want it.
Exactly, because they have it. They used to have it in qualifying, right?
They used to have it in qualifying wherever you want it. And then when they first began, then there was an issue with DRS open in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Got a little sketchy.
Got a little dicey. Number 5 was qualifying knockout segments. So replace Q1 to Q3 with a knockout format where the slowest driver is limited every few minutes during a single session. Now, I've argued this on past podcasts that that might be interesting to have a qualifying session, and you go out and every few minutes or whatever you eliminate 3-5 drivers or 2 drivers.
But I thought they tried this a few years ago.
Did they?
Failed miserably.
I don't.
Yeah, in Australia.
Oh,
and they dropped. Remember?
Yeah, maybe
the knockout qualifying where everyone's out there.
Yeah.
But it failed very badly.
Yeah, it did. It did. You're right.
Yeah, but I don't think Monaco. I don't think there's anything wrong with qualifying. I still don't.
No, qualifying is exciting.
If I think we can try and maybe fix something in the race, it gives people some chance of getting by somebody, but I don't think touch qualifying at all.
Right. Then there's this concept, well, people are poking around, so maybe you give points for fastest sector, to try to incentivize drivers to really push throughout the entire lap because they're getting points per sector.
For every lap they're doing, they're going to get points.
I don't know.
So, I got 3,794 points.
I don't want to have to need it.
That's more than Jim Clark.
I know. I don't want to have to use an abacus to watch this race. I really don't.
No. It'll be like I don't know.
Yeah.
There'll be bells going off. It'll be like at a casino. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, look. Yeah.
Right. Woo! I got a point for sector 2.
Aunt Marjorie went fastest in corner 4. You win a prize.
Uncle Jim's on it. He got all 3 sectors. fastest second.
Oh, he fell off the
He
chair.
fell off.
Oh.
somebody help Uncle Jim. Let's see. Then this one, this is, obviously this is one that I think most people talk about as sort of micro adjustments to the track. Widen specific corners like Nouvelle Chicane or Tabac, and use temporary barriers to allow side-by-side racing without major reconstruction. And they kind of pointed to the 2004 pit lane expansion and that kind of thing to say that it's feasible. To really rethink some of these corners to make them more of a passing opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I think that's obviously the most likely best scenario to keep the purity of the racing going.
Yeah.
At least give one opportunity per lap where even if someone's trying to back you up, they cannot take control. But the problem is, how much do you want to change the track?
I know.
I mean, you come in, if they made Tabac a tighter turn, a heavier braking zone, that could be, because we saw people getting runs off the chicane and going down, but because it's not a very deep braking zone, so if you made that a 90-degree turn, not that we want 90-degree turns, that would open up an opportunity. Width also opens up opportunities.
Yeah.
So, no, you just have to know the topography and the layout of the actual area to actually come up with a plan that would actually work, which I don't have.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah.
Then other people say, well, we'll make it longer and we could go farther out in the city and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you're right. There's two elements there. A, how much can they? And B, how much would they want to change the track layout? Right.
Yeah.
Number 8 was safety car strategy reset. They introduced a rule where under safety car conditions, all cars must pit within a set window, like 2 laps, to reset strategies, preventing the free tire changes seen in 2024. And that would ensure. I think this was a suggestion over at the race. I think they were talking about that.
Yeah, I still don't think that's actually addressing what the issue is. But
might be talking about how to eliminate the 2024 debacle, but I don't know if it fixes this.
Right.
Issue.
Exactly. And the thing with this whole deal is, before you bring in number 9, is because I don't know what that is.
Number 9. Number 9.
Yeah, where was I going? I just lost my train of thought. Go to number 9. I'll try and pick up.
Well, I was talking about how that solves the 2024 issue, but having all the cars pit, does that jog your memory? No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you want to hear my crazy suggestions?
Yes, go.
Before we get to number 9?
Sure.
Because I'm thinking number 9 is pretty special.
No, not really. It's just another idea. But I thought it was intriguing. Go ahead.
Okay, so one thing was kind of leading on that pace car thing, everyone has to pit. Well, then if you're going to use a 2-stop rule, then make sure everyone has to pit in the first third of the race and before the end of the second third of the race.
Which is kind of what Martin Brundle suggested. He said that there should be a lap. They like lap. All first stops have to be made between lap 20 and 28 or 20 and 24 or whatever.
A pit window, we do that in SRO where there's after 25 minutes to 35 minutes is your pit window. So open up a pit window that you have to pit in. But, the other one was change the cars a little bit. Obviously, the braking zones are where passing's made. But maybe, the Monaco cars this is a bit of a crazy one. Probably won't work because it'd probably be expensive and crazy. But change the cars so that we elongate the braking zones by a long way. So let's do away with the carbon brakes. Let's put on not standard brakes, but old-fashioned type steel brakes with regular pads.
Lengthen the braking zone.
Yeah, just make the cars don't slow down as well as they do, so lengthen the braking zone a little bit.
So instead of braking hard at 50 meters, now you're at 100 meters out.
Right, which opens, everyone knows that's what opens up braking zones, width plus length of braking zones.
Yeah.
As I think you sent that thing for me about, who said that?
Was it TK?
No, it was the Italian Max.
Oh, yeah, Max Pappas.
Yeah, it's Max Pappas said
Yeah,
that, you know,
right.
and he was right, you know.
Yeah.
You lengthen the braking zones, you open up the passing opportunities.
Right.
That's what they need to do.
Right.
And the other even crazier one was have a joker lap, which is what basically what George did. You give yourself the opportunity. You can use it once, use it wisely, and you can
Cut
just
the
straight line the chicane. Yeah,
There you go. I like it.
yeah. You get one cut per race. There you go. Use it wisely, George.
Yeah. So
That's a silly one. But
So the one I added, number 9, it just literally before we recorded this podcast, I have a dear friend of mine, Koen, who is a wonderful Belgian friend of mine who lives in Belgium, and he sent me a message on WhatsApp about a possible way to fix Monaco. So I threw this in the notes because I thought it was interesting. And, you know, worth talking about. But he said, you know, kind of look to the whole race of champions concept. He said, you know, that they would have a long laps and short laps. So you have, you know, call it 80 lap race. 40 have to be ran on the short the short circuit, and 40 have to on the long, right? So I was thinking, and I kind of sent him a message back. I said, well, they had that Formula E layout, which was short, right? And then they have the full layout. So if you did it, you had 80 laps, 40 of them have to be on the full layout, 40 of them would be on the short sort of Formula E, where they go to Saint Devote, they take a right and go down that hill down towards Nouvelle Chicane, and then you could put a hairpin there and have a blend line like you do a pit exit, right? You'd have a blend line there where they do a hairpin and come out into the traffic.
Into the regular track. So do you do it? Do you have to do 40 in a row, or can you do it every other lap? Because that would be.
Yeah, he just
and everyone crashes at the hairpin.
He said, you know, your strategy is whenever you want to do the short versus
whenever
the long.
you want to do, you just got to do 40.
But you got to do 40 here or 40 on the long. You know.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know if anybody go for that, but that would be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because it could be interesting. I'm just thinking from a strategy standpoint alone, throwing in short lap times to reduce pit stop deltas. They do short laps when they did the pit stops and long, and then it'd be interesting to see.
Well, honestly, that's kind of nearly like that little cut in the chicane idea.
It is.
Really.
It is.
Right?
Yes.
So it's all the Joker, you know, somehow have the MotoGP
long
penalty curve, whereas
Yeah.
you've got to take that every third of a race, so you can't actually hold someone up for a whole race.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I mean, I don't like any of those ideas, but there's ideas, right?
Yeah.
We're spitballing.
We're spitballing.
Yeah, we're just throwing things out there.
Yeah.
But adding to what I was saying with the brakes, you know, maybe make us a brake spec that obviously isn't as efficient as what they use mostly.
Well, they shouldn't complain too much because they make a bespoke steering rack for Monaco, so just a bespoke brake.
Right. Yep, bespoke brake, and then downforce. You have to run the downforce that you run at Monza at Monaco.
There you go.
Also, that's going to lengthen the braking zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Basically, Monaco, they run with full downforce, so that gives you maximum braking capabilities and things like that. They have to make them work for a little bit. You could also include the tire and have everyone have to run the super hard tire.
Yeah.
But anything we do to make the braking zones longer, I think would be best. But I think the best idea is to somehow change the track some form of fashion.
And if you're going to stick with the 2 pit stop, you know, make them. They all have to run all 3 compounds.
Yeah.
You know, which would be a little bit more of a challenge. So. Anyway, who knows? I don't know.
It would have. Actually.
Yeah, it would. All right. Well, let's jump into the review. We'll talk about how the teams finish. We'll start at the sharp end of the grid. We're going to start off
foolery
with McLaren and Lando Norris.
You're getting the hang of this, Lando.
You're getting the hang of this, Lando. Took the win from pole position. He converted his pole position. Masterful victory. Drove great, overcoming a dramatic lockup into turn 1. That nearly cost him the lead to Charles Leclerc. Despite all the pressure from Leclerc and a strategic challenge from Max, who delayed his pit stop to back Norris into the Ferrari, hoping maybe they'd get in a kerfuffle back there. You know, he was composed, capitalized once Max boxed. He capitalized on that clear lap, pulled out the gap he needed because Oscar was on his tail by the time Max was holding him up. And once Max got out of the way, it was smooth sailing. It's his second win of the season, and he closed the championship lead just to 3 points, Paul. So it was clearly Lando's weekend, and one wonders, Paul, just psychologically. We talked a little bit about Lando before. If I know JB said in, I think it was before qualifying, maybe been after qualifying. I know JB had said, sometimes this is all it takes to sort of stop the self-doubt, to stop the dwelling on what happened and really to sort of reinvigorate, I got it, I can do this. And I think JB was being very polite and sort of suggesting that, hopefully Lando will take that qualifying as a confirmation that he's every bit capable of doing this and winning a championship and to maybe get out of his own head a little bit.
Yeah, winning fixes a lot of things.
It does,
sure.
yeah.
But executing at Monaco is very special, both in qualifying and in the race. Obviously, he didn't make a mistake, but qualifying lap, be able to beat all his peers was very, very important, and it absolutely could turn it around.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not going to fall in doldrums if it doesn't go bad again, but it should help him a lot moving forward from here on out because, it hasn't been good past few races. He needs it badly, and he executed it. So, yeah, it's the best scenario for him right now to, claim back a lot of points, but also to beat everybody else in probably the hardest track they drive all year.
Right. And we know that, and we talked about the last couple of podcasts, that, as far as the McLaren duo are concerned, it all comes down to their race between them is on Saturday. So on this Saturday, Lando sent a message not only to the rest of the grid, but to Oscar too.
Yeah. And I think Lando had a lot of pace in hand because, I know Charles was complaining Lando's slow near the end there, but once Max was out of the way, Lando was absolutely gone.
He was gone.
I think he had that potential the whole time.
Yeah, I do too.
So he had it well in hand. He just was backing up so that Max didn't mess with him.
Yeah, and I think he said
did a good job of managing that, actually.
I think he said that's a great point, Paul, because I think he said that he was trying to get out of Max's dirty air a little bit.
Yeah. I think he just wanted to get out of his manipulation zone.
Yes.
Because we know what if Max does something, he's a smart cookie. He can do all kinds of things to mess with you.
Yeah.
So.
Stop bullying me, Max. And his teammate Oscar Piastri headed in as the championship leader, leaves Monaco, still the championship leader by 3 points, delivered a solid performance, finishing third, bolsters certainly McLaren's Constructors' Championship lead for sure. In the early stages, at first, it seemed like to me that he might be trying that teammate helper role by dropping back about 5 seconds. And I think even Sky was wondering if that wasn't what he was doing. But as the race unfolded, he picked up the pace. And that started me thinking that, I think maybe as he boxed, I think maybe the goal there, and I don't know this, you have to ask Andrea, but I think maybe it was conserving his tires, trying to make that undercut work against Leclerc when he finally did box. But it didn't work out that way for him. There's no need to beat your tires to death for no reason. Yeah. You only push when you need to, and I think everyone was still measuring their pace, and so giving yourself a gap, keeping the car cool, keeping everything intact is all good. Yeah, in the late stages, he did. He had, like Lando, he had a lot of pace. He maintained a lot of pressure on Leclerc, trying to help Lando out by giving Leclerc something else to focus on, and he did that. He's right up behind Charles for sure. The idea of overtaking Leclerc really proved unlikely at Monaco, but in the tight streets. But Piastri secured a podium, and it was kind of a damage limitation for him. Yeah, it wasn't bad. He didn't seem too displeased, and called it a messy weekend. And I don't think he wasn't as good as Lando this weekend. Yeah, but I think he's just happy that even though, and it's going to happen, Lando's certainly good enough to beat him on any day, really, back and forth. So if Lando's got you that weekend, he certainly didn't lose a lot of ground either. So no, he didn't. Be happy to finish. He could go so wrong, right? He was kissing the Armcos all weekend long, wasn't he? Yeah. Pushing it. Yeah, he really was. Let's see. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc P2, Lewis Hamilton on P5. Leclerc pushed hard all weekend for a home victory, starting second, nearly capitalizing on Norris's lockup into turn one. Didn't get around him, though. He relentlessly pressured Lando, staying with a few tenths for much of the race. But the circuit layout just made passing nearly impossible for him. Despite pitting a lap after Piastri to cover the McLaren, he just couldn't find a way past Norris. I mean, he gave it all. And it was interesting because he walked into this weekend, as the only Monegasque on the grid, and he was saying that, our car isn't that great in slow speed corners, but boy, you'd be hard pressed to believe that given his pace on practice and qualifying. I thought he had pole there. So I just think it was a capital weekend for him. I know he's not happy. He wanted to win, but man, in that car's not interested in winning.
Yeah, it's... he put forth a stellar weekend, put it all together. Was nearly perfect except for that one lap in qualifying, and he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that Lando Norris, right? I think this race is so important to him. It probably shouldn't be that important to him, honestly. We see other drivers like Niki Lauda and things like that. It's like, it's just another race, just more points or loss of points, and move on. Yeah. But he's an emotional guy, and it does mean a lot to him. And he gets up for it for sure. Yeah. I mean, just because you live there doesn't mean you should be fast around there. They don't really go together. It's not like, I go through this turn every day. I go, all these guys can get the best out of their car, but this race is a bit more special for Charles. But as I said, it shouldn't be that special to him, and he needs to take this mindset and performance and put it to the other races in the championship as well.
Yeah, you wonder how special Monaco is to Charles, how special the British Grand Prix is to Lewis. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see Oscar getting that jazzed about the Australian Grand Prix.
No.
I don't know if it'd be that important. I mean, yes, it's his own race and stuff, but yeah, I think he kind of would have that Niki Lauda approach to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of Lewis Hamilton, he's down P5. He had a strong start. He started back in 7th, so he gained up 2 positions during the first round of pit stops to run in 5th. Monaco, again, tough to pass. Pretty much a lonely race, unable to close the gap to the leaders or really face any immediate pressure from behind. And he was kind of running out there in a more of a lonely race. He executed well, solid, lost ground really due to traffic after stops, and that was difficult. Finished 5th. He was the last driver on the lead lap. Somebody asked him, I don't know if it was Pink or somebody asked him, why were you 40 some seconds behind Charles Leclerc? Yeah. That was, and I was like, whew. And even look on his face, it was like, that's a harsh question. But anyway, I kind of feel like Lewis finished where the Ferrari probably normally is capable of. And Charles did sort of a Max thing, right? Where he dragged that car and something out of that car that it just isn't interested in doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing back to Charles was, he was criticizing the car a lot, which means, which is good, right? He's like, it's not it's not perfect, but yeah, he made that down, and Lewis obviously didn't have the perfect car.
No, the
qualifying was marginal, and you pay the price for bad qualifying in Monaco, always with the results.
Yeah, and Lewis is he's a veteran. He knows how it goes at Monaco, and he knew P7 was always going to be a difficult situation for him to recover from. So, so P5 is pretty good from his point. Red Bull, speaking of Max ended up in P4, Yuki Tsunoda in P17. Max adopted sort of an alternate strategy, delayed his second pit stop to lead briefly, and then he tried to disrupt the leaders. He started 4th, led during the pit stop windows for Norris and Leclerc, opted to back Norris into Leclerc, hoping that, that might create some, maybe not the best passing moves. Maybe they'd get taken out. Who knows? But he was, creating chaos back there amongst the leaders. Didn't work out for him. His late stop dropped him back down to fourth, but he had nothing to lose, Paul. There was plenty of room there, so he was never in risk of losing fourth, whether he boxed or not. So, I mean, if he didn't box, yes, he'd be disqualified. But had he boxed boxing as late as he didn't cost him anything. He ended up fourth.
No, it was going to end up where he was.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was holding out for, hopefully there was
safety car,
some kind of safety car, red flag, whatever. That was their only trick left in their book. And that's why they waited till the last lap, because you never know if it stops. Yeah. That's the position he's in, right?
It's funny you say that. That's the only trick left in their book, whereas I think it was Mercedes' only trick. Period. We'll get to that in a minute.
They must have lost the power in the strategy room.
Oh, yeah, power went out.
Got anything more for us, guys?
I lost all the changes I made to Excel spreadsheet for strategy. Damn it!
Did you not get that?
Yeah. But yes,
I deleted it.
You're right. It was sort of the last trick they had, and why not give it a go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely Could have changed everything.
Yep.
Wouldn't have been right, but it would have changed everything
for sure. Yuki, tough race for Yuki. His race is pretty much compromised early when Pierre Gasly hit the back of his RB21, causing some damage. Started on soft tires, pitted early. Red Bulls, they were hoping for a safety car for Yuki to try to recover some positions. That never came.
Yeah.
Got stuck in traffic. He struggled to make any progress, finished outside of the points. And I mentioned this earlier, unlike the RBs and Williams, Yuki just wasn't close enough to Max to be utilized as a teammate help, tail gunner for Max in any of those strategy scenarios.
Not even close.
No. Yeah. So he was pretty much out of it.
He was the lone soldier out there, and the victim of all the backing up and everything. It just didn't matter how many pit stops he made.
No.
And closed up, it really didn't help him any.
Right. Now we go to, RB, Racing Bulls. Isaac Hadjar, P6, Liam Lawson, P8. Should we start with Lawson? Let's start with Lawson, then we'll get to Isaac. So Liam played a critical role for this team, backing up the midfield and to create a pit window for Hadjar. And though it compromised his own race, it was very, sacrificial of him to do it. Mm-hmm. His efforts ensured that Hadjar's success. And since Williams were doing the same thing, that then allowed Lawson to finish in the points because Williams were backing everybody up, and it gave him enough room so he could make his first points of the 2025 season. So, it worked a treat. And Paul, you said before the podcast, you just get the sense that Laurent Mekies and the whole team, I mean, this was plan A, period. As soon as the lights went green, this is it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, obviously it all depended on the team cars being close together.
Yep.
In the qualifying, I think in the future for next year, how Formula One goes, they'll find a way to neutralize this whole 2-stop rule anyway in the future. But it was great for them to think outside the box and execute perfectly, as you said.
Yeah.
As soon as first lap's over, they know where they're at. Okay, here we go. Let's start backing them up, Liam, and let Isaac go. And he did the incredible job.
Yeah.
Did a great job of doing it and executed it twice perfectly. And somehow, and I'm not quite sure, as I said, but maybe it was just because of what the Williams doing, still scored points. I thought he was a sacrificial lamb.
I did
for
too.
Points, just to give Isaac it, which, hey, it's kind of something he needs to do right now. He's trying to stay in Formula One.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's not going to start, throwing his toys out right now. He's going to keep it quiet and start performing. And I think, this probably went a long way to building camaraderie in the team, because it's all about getting the team more manufacturer points, and what he did at Monaco executed. He helped the team get both those sets of points for both drivers, really.
Yeah.
So it should be very good for him moving forward, because he needed some kind of level off from all the questions and concerns, and is he good enough, or is he going to be replaced from Red Bull, from the RB as well, you know.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was good.
Yeah, and I do think it was a combination of a couple of things. I think because Williams then seeing what RB did, then they were doing it too, not just solely because they saw RB doing it, but their cars were similarly positioned after qualifying towards the sharper end of the grid, and they were next to each other so they could pull it off. And I think Williams knew that and had that strategy in their pocket too. And as RB did it, then Williams was doing it as well. And I think that gave Liam that gap to hold on to the points. But to be fair, and I'm not trying to ascribe hero status on Liam here, but I will say you could go back and watch Friday's practices and Saturday and qualifying. And to be fair to Liam, it wasn't just because Williams backed it up. He had really good pace around Monaco for whatever reason. I mean, he was quicker than Isaac in the practice session, some of them, and he was quick around here.
Yeah, no, he was. I mean, he earned his right to be right behind Isaac at the start, right? Yep. So I mean, he people didn't give him that position. He earned it by running fast, and he was having a very good weekend. Obviously, the car was good too.
Yeah. It was a good weekend for him in aggregate, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying he did anything.
And I think I'm not sure, but I think I'm not sure Williams would have adapted that policy had they not seen it work so well for RB. Initially, I mean, from the get-go, literally. Yeah. They were on that program. It wasn't like, well, let's just see how it shakes out. Maybe we'll think about that.
Right.
RB went to it straight right away. Jugular. And,
yeah.
Which you had to do.
Yeah. To make this work, they had to do it at the time that they did it. And then his teammate, Isaac Hadjar, delivered his best result of the season, finishing 6th through a well-executed strategy. Certainly his first stint allowed him to pit and maintain 6th position despite losing a spot to Hamilton. He lost that. Hamilton was quicker, but because of what Liam Lawson did, slowing the pack behind him, he switched to Sauce for a really quick second stint. While Liam did his job, he was able to box and hold on to 6th. So great result. And there again, like you said, executing anything around Monaco is difficult. And Isaac just did a fantastic job, continuing what a great season this young man's having. He just looks terrific. And this car is quick. He was quick in qualifying, quick in practice. I think, they were back and forth, he and Liam, and I think both of them had a great weekend. And I think Isaac just adding to his CV of a really quick driver for sure. Yeah,
very quick driver, I mean, 6th place is great no matter how you earned it, whether your teammate helped you or not. I mean, execution is always important, right? I mean, there's times he had to drive super fast to make sure he made that gap work for him, and he absolutely did. So, deserved the 6th place, absolutely. And, still knocking it out the park really, for a rookie driver.
I'm super impressed with Isaac. He just going from strength to strength. Certainly he'll have his moments of issues or learning and that kind of thing, as all rookies like Kimi Antonelli did this weekend. But but he's really impressive for sure. Speaking of rookies, Ollie Behrman P12, Esteban Ocon P7. We'll start with Ollie. He started from the back. Made up all 8 places, finishing P12. Early pit stop was hampered by a slow stop, unfortunately, and he struggled in traffic for most of the race, missing out on the points. But despite the challenges, it was really a recovery drive from the back of the grid, and I think it showed some promise. I think he even caught some air flying over the curve. That whole car was off. He got that curve wrong, but at the chicane, but. Yeah, he only finished P12, but starting dead last and finishing P12 in Monaco is a pretty good effort.
Yeah, and honestly, he couldn't have finished any higher with the roadblocks in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, the strategy was really good. If they weren't backing everybody up, I think Behrman would have been in the points.
Yeah.
By just running the maybe more mainline strategy of pitting early and getting yourself called up to the back of the pack, I thought it was going to work out pretty well, but didn't realize how much backing up was actually going to happen during the race. But it was a blockade in front of him, and he had nothing to do with his potential, unfortunately. But at least it was a come from last to 12th, although 12th doesn't pay your points either. But it's still still solid to get your laps in at Monaco for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And a much better race. Esteban Ocon, terrific result in P7 after a DNF last weekend. He capitalized on the two-stop rule with Haas reacting really sharply to the RB's tactics, right? Mm-hmm. So as RB started doing this, man, they launched. They saw it coming.
Right.
And they didn't get Esteban hung up in that whole train, and they boxed Esteban early for his first stop to avoid that. Then when Liam started holding everybody up, an early second stop allowed him to jump the rivals and secure his position in the points. He needed results because, Esteban's a quick driver and he needed those results. But I got to also say kudos to the team. Very keen strategy calls from them on how the race was starting to unfold, when they chose to box him to avoid getting hung up in so much traffic. It was a great team effort, both execution on track by Esteban, which I think was great, and then really from the whole strategy side of the team, I think they did a great job there.
Yeah, they really did. Reading the race as it did, and not just sitting there and waiting. Yeah. Unlike Mercedes, who basically just waited forever. They reacted quickly. They pitted. They called up the pack again. Pitted. Called up the pack again. Then when everyone has to pit, they start moving up the ranks, and that's exactly how it worked there for Esteban, and worked out great. Yeah,
it was great. Job. Yeah, happy for Esteban. He's had a little bit of bad luck, with the DNF last weekend and everything. So very happy for him. Good result. Williams, Alex Albon P9, Carlos Sainz P10. Seeing the RB's action, as Paul mentioned, Williams chose to take advantage of their cars running together in the top 10. As Carlos started to create a gap for Alex to make both his stops, Alex then swapped roles and created a gap for Carlos to make his stops, and they finished P9 and P10. A good execution from Alex, and a good race up into P9 for him.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. They did use the same strategy as RB. They didn't do it as well as RB. Maybe it's just, I agree. Yeah, but they definitely did it. I mean, I think they come away from the race a little dirty, feeling a little dirty. But it was a tough one to watch that part of it. Certainly with the Mercedes team right behind them, that's got to be a difficult one. The friendly nature of the two teams together, the engine sharing, all this kind of stuff. It's probably a difficult one, very uncomfortable on the pit box as well, calling that strategy. And I don't think, they did fine. They should have qualified better though. And ultimately, that was the best they could get. Yeah.
Carlos created those gaps initially, then cautioned the team to wait before they reverse the order until much later in the race. Yeah. Because anything can happen. He's right. But ultimately, around lap 66, team says, look, we're going to swap him now. And put Carlos in P10. You're right. Yeah. Both drivers said this isn't how they like to go racing, and James Vowles also saying the same thing and apologizing to Toto Wolff as the Williams strategy completely frustrated Mercedes to no end. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. Although I did see it was on German media. It was a video of James and Toto up in the pit wall box.
Oh, I saw that one,
talking back and forth. And James, I don't know what James said, but but he was apologizing or whatever it was. And I posted a GIF of Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, before I was the learner, but now I am the master, It was like James pulling the wool completely over Mercedes' eyes on that one. James said, it's not how you want to go racing, but those are the rules, and we did.
Those are the rules. It's not up to the teams to make the race exciting or whatever. It's up to the teams to manipulate the rules the best they can to get as many points on the board as possible.
Right.
And sometimes it's more exciting to watch or more fulfilling, but either way, they still got points. Right.
So. Yeah. And this leads us to Mercedes. And this was kind of a head scratcher for me. I don't want to, don't take this as I'm, taking them out behind the barn and roughing them up. I'm not quite sure I understand the strategy. And on one hand, on the other hand, I understand the sentiment. So let's talk about it for a minute. George Russell in P11. George race is really marked by his frustration, particularly being in that battle with Alex. And it got so frustrating as Alex is backing him up, and he finally just cut the Nouvelle chicane to avoid contact as he was braking. He ignored the advice to give the position back, said, I'll take the penalty. He did, and still finish in P11 after doing a drive-through penalty. And he said Albon was driving erratically, and he accepted the penalty. It cost him position, but he finished outside of the points, but he still finished better than his teammate. And to be fair, Paul, I guess the qualifying positions for Mercedes was tough, and they knew that, and they knew they were going to struggle in Monaco because of their qualifying and where they were. Right?
Yeah.
I guess I was a little startled. Not startled, that's a bad word. I was a little surprised that they both started on hard compounds, and it seemed like to me like they were just self-flagellating themselves over a bad qualifying, because it seemed like the whole strategy was just completely hinged on a safety car, which never came. And when the RBs and Williams executed their strategies, Mercedes was left with very few options. And Toto said, realistically, a red flag or safety car was their only hope. And I'm just wondering if that was their whole strategy, because, I mean, I don't know, Paul. Like I said, I'm not trying to beat them up. They're infinitely smarter than I am when it comes to this thing. It just seems like there wasn't reading the strategy as it developed.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of imagination there.
Yeah. How did you see it?
Yeah, is it a part of the big machine? They are a big machine that they can't make these, because we saw what Haas did.
Yeah.
They reacted to it quickly, and that's exact. Them waiting for a safety car all the way through the race was never going to work anyway, because they had to do 2 stops.
Yeah, exactly.
So either way, they were going to end up at the back.
And surely there had to be a window, to your point, Paul. There had to be a window where we got to stop, even if we get a safety car.
Right. Because even if it's, you're going to bank on 2 safety cars, or you're rolling the dice on a safety car and a red flag, that your strategy, that's not a strategy.
No.
So yeah, it was probably the worst, because we did see other teams, as we said, make better decisions on reading the race and reading what the other teams are doing and reacting to it in a positive manner, and they just didn't react at all.
Right.
And if George was going to do that, he should have done it way earlier.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everything just seemed to be too late for them. George's frustration, I understand it. I understand why he did it, and because normally the penalty isn't a drive-through. So they obviously made it a drive-through because of they understood.
He deliberately did it.
He deliberately did it and was willing to take the penalty, because the penalty, if it was the normal penalty for cutting and gaining an advantage, can be 5 to 10 seconds. I mean, they can always hand out whatever penalty they want, but he was reading it like that's. If I can get 10-second penalty, I'm fine, because I can make up way more than 10 seconds right now.
Right.
I could probably make up 10 seconds in 2 laps without having to run behind Albon, because Albon's going to stay where he is, backing everybody else up. It was a good idea. It's just that the stewards decided to thwart his evil plan by giving him an even more abrasive penalty. But as I said,
which I kind of have an issue with.
You got to do it early.
Yeah.
Do it early. Take the penalty, but at least gain all those positions. But yeah, it was just it wasn't like a bad strategy from Mercedes. It was like a no strategy from Mercedes.
Well, that's what I'm trying to put together. And I guess my only advice to George is don't say on the radio that you deliberately did that.
Yeah.
You should have said, "Oh man, I lost it, and under the braking zone, there's nothing I could do." You because hearing him say that, the steward's like, "Oh, he did it deliberately. Let's hammer him," and that's wrong. So anyway, I was trying to figure out. Like I said, I'm not trying to be harsh with Mercedes. I respect the hell out of that team, and I'm confused at their strategy, and the lack of, I guess, for lack of a better term, the lack of alacrity in their strategy calls, seeing the race start to unfold. They just they had 2 cars that were next to each other. They could have split strategies. They could have done some other things, and I'm just kind of curious why they didn't. Anyway, I'm sure they have a perfectly.
I think they were so far back that backing everyone up was only going to keep them from beating the people that weren't going to score points anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. So it didn't really make any difference.
If that that train's doing 5 seconds a lap slower. I've got to do 8 seconds a lap slower. It was nearly an impossible feat there.
So in this case, I'd be holding up the entire train so Kimi can get both stops and slot into P16. What's the point?
Exactly.
And so anyway, that makes total sense to me. I just I was just hoping for a better race and a split strategy and trying something, Try something. Right. Anyway, Kimi Antonelli, P18. His moment came early with that battle against Bortoleto and at Portier that left the Sauber in the wall. Kimi had a rough day, mired in traffic, boxed late, dropped in the back of the field, had a shunt on Saturday. So it's a tough race, tough weekend for him. Probably a lot of good learning experience from him, how to hustle an F1 car around Monaco. So difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Difficult to be too hard on him. He was in a pretty impossible situation as the team itself was, right?
Right. Was the very low points, I think.
How'd you see the incident? Because Bortoleto got around him at the hairpin.
He did.
Yeah, and that was legit.
That was a great move.
Yeah.
But then Kimi, he got it in there, but he got it all the way alongside Bortoleto. I don't know what he could have done different because by that point he was on the nasty stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the nicest move you ever make in your life. Because basically you're going to stuff it in there alongside, even though you have the right to, according to the rules. That guy's not going to come around that corner.
Yeah. It's a bit.
There's no way.
But it was a little different than the Ocon and Gasly collision from last year.
Yeah, that was very clumsy.
Yeah, that was
because
clumsy.
the move on the inside was very clumsy.
Yeah.
Kimi's move wasn't clumsy. The only thing he could have done was back up earlier if he'd seen it happening.
Yeah.
But he's a racer. He's trying to race this guy.
Yeah.
And just got in the dusty stuff, and there was no coming back from it for him there. But I don't blame him for crashing, honestly, because I think he's got a right to fight. For his
agreed.
Position.
Agreed. Speaking of Gasly and Alpine, Pierre at DNF, Franco Colapinto P13. Pierre Gasly, his race pretty much ended with his collision with Yuki Tsunoda, damaged his car, forcing him to retire. He drove all the way back to the pits with no brakes, and I think the Williams team had to stop him because he rolled right through his box. He had a good start, and in practice it seemed like the pace was thereabouts. Maybe it didn't have a point, but the collision ended his day. I'm not quite sure I read a full account of why he hit Yuki, other than he didn't expect. I think Pierre said he didn't expect Yuki to move in the braking zone.
Yeah, he moved over a little bit for sure.
Caught him off guard, is what happened. And then Franco had a better day, finishing P13, which is the best he said really he could have done from where he started and what was going on. He was stuck behind the RBs and the Williams and the Mercedes teams pretty much all day. When Pierre crashed, the team boxed Franco early, hoping to make something happen, but it didn't. Settled down in P13. And Flavio said that it was a good learning for Franco, that he was fast given where he was, and he did a nice job. And that, that's high praise coming from Flavio.
I didn't know Flavio had praise.
I didn't know.
I certainly would. I'm not sure I would have bestowed it on
I know.
Colapinto. Honestly, I thought he had a pretty poor weekend the whole time. He was struggling everywhere for pace.
Yeah.
And he came 13th, but I'm not sure he earned it. I think he was probably the slowest car out there, quite honestly. So I'm not sure where he's pulling that from, Flavio, but he's got other motives, I'm sure.
Right. Well, I came P20 and I didn't even race in the Monaco Grand Prix. So. Let's see. Sauber, Nico Hulkenberg, P16, Gabriel Bortoleto in P14. Nico said he had a good start, made up a position at the start, but when the cars ahead started running 3 to 5 seconds off the pace, it said he's just backed up the whole field and he was stuck in that traffic. He said with this kind of racing, you have to qualify in the top 10, but said that the team executed their race well. It's just the strategy shenanigans that made it a tough day for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for Gabriel, he made a pass on Kimi, as I mentioned, at the hairpin. Then Kimi dove down the inside of him. He ran out wide, hit the wall at Portier, hit the wall there. But he was able to back up. He did back up, get back to the pits, stayed in the race. And that early stop, because of that accident, it actually helped him out a lot. Because when he got back out there, one stop is already done, and they took advantage of the virtual safety car to gain those positions, and he finished ahead of Nico up in P14. So what seemed like kind of a bad deal at the beginning, actually, it really turned into a silver lining. Such
was the race.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right. Yes. Right. So
that's my strategy all the time.
Yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah. Our whole strategy was hit the wall at Portier. Yeah. So I've asked you this before. My favorite corner, having watched this race for decades, was always Portier. I don't know why, but there's just something about that hairpin, so slow, and then come around Portier. And remember, Paul, when you and I were young, we were kids, and they'd come around Portier, and there's a little bit of a sign there, and you saw the ocean, the Mediterranean out there, and they came around that. And in our minds, we're thinking back when, was it Ferrari or whoever went off into the Mediterranean, and it's just something so cool about the TV camera of coming through Portier and then seeing the Mediterranean there, and then them going through the tunnel. I don't know, I just loved that corner for some reason. So
it's hard because every corner has so many memories.
I know.
For me.
Yeah, true. It would. Yeah.
Through the whole years, Rastcast has a memory, the swimming pool section, Tabac.
Yeah.
I think Tabac into the swimming pool was kind of my favorite section because it's so fast.
It is fast.
And it's commitment, and things can go horribly wrong there, which is always makes it more intriguing. But literally every corner around Monaco has, as I said, so many memories that I just love them all.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I think
even coming down, moving over because of the big, ramp coming down into the hairpin. It's just like it's all just magical.
It is magical. I guess maybe because you are a worldly British gent, and I was a young boy in the middle of America. So when I saw the Mediterranean, it seemed also very exotic to a a 6-year-old boy. So. It was awesome. So
imagine, a boy from the Midwest finding Formula One at all was pretty miraculous.
Yeah, it was pretty miraculous. I even got into it back then. It was so. It was. I wrote a editorial piece. Not that anybody cares, but I had a few people ask me how long I've been watching F1 and why I got into it, and I wrote a editorial piece about that on our website, and I still, to this day, have it somewhere. I can find it. But anyway, you'll see a picture of my Corgi Lotus 72 as the image.
JPS car.
The JPS car. And that's when I got into Formula One. And it's so funny. Max with radio, the team, had said, the shifts are like 1972. And I thought, Monaco, why would he pick 1972 of all people? So Max and I are like this, man.
Oh, yeah.
We're tight like that. Anyway, Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, DNF, Lance Stroll, P15. Fernando had a good start, was running in P7. I thought for a while, Paul, he could be a contender for points.
Yeah,
a lot like Esteban, right? I figured if the team read that strategy, which it looked like they were, then I felt like maybe Fernando would be in the points. Unfortunately, he made that one stop, running 7th, and he had an issue with the car, smoke coming out of the back, and it parked it. So it was unfortunate.
Well, he's the unluckiest Formula One driver ever.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Apart from winning two world championships. And
right.
All those other stuff.
And being
apart from that.
And apart from being a multimillionaire, but whatever.
Yeah.
Winning Le Mans.
Very.
Other than that.
Woe is me. Yeah. He has had some bad luck this year, unfortunately. That looked like it was going to be a turning around point. Finally score points, right?
Yeah, I really felt that.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Lance boxed early, then ran a long stint hoping for a safety car, kind of like Max did. Never really came, ended up in P15. So not a lot to talk about with Lance. So there you go. Let's do some awards. We always hand out awards during this show, and the first award we like to kind of talk about is what we call Move of the Race, because there's always somebody doing a move of the race, and then why not this race, right? So what'd you get for Move of the Race, Paul?
I'm giving it to the strategists at the RB team.
That's who I gave it to.
Impeccable. They set the stage. They went with their strategy full on. Didn't wait for anyone else to figure out everything else. They just went by the jugular and executed and got the points to pay for it.
Right. That's who I picked.
Yeah.
I said move the race, RB and Williams. I think RB executed it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was done really well. Really well. Oh, man. Time for Donkey of the Race.
Ooh.
This isn't a fun one.
Everyone send your votes in now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not favorite driver of the race. It's your donkey of the race.
Donkey of the race. I think you and I had the same.
Well, I'm generalizing a bit more than just the rules here, but just the parlor game tricks that motor racing has started to evolve to, and invariably it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
let the purists enjoy their races and don't mess with stuff so much, and don't bring convoluted rule packages in anywhere, let alone Formula One as well. We've seen it in NASCAR where they chase something by changing the rules every week or every season, and it just lost more and more people. So yeah, this does not make things fake.
Yeah.
Let's allow races to be boring sometimes, and look at the tracks. Open up a corner here or there, but let's not just throw so many rules at everything that it just becomes a farce.
I agree. That leaves one award left, Paul. Oh, yeah.
Well, look faster, Todd.
I am looking. I'm looking at my notes. Okay, Paul, I found him. Well, who'd you have?
I've got Liam.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. And it's more to do with, yes, executing, not making mistakes. Very important. If he'd have tried all that and then stuffed it in the barrier somehow, it would have been a big loss for him, right? But he did execute it. He made it work. He got helps both cars getting the points. A really good, attaboys from all the team, I'm sure, and it's really going to help him for the rest of the season. So it was an important race for him.
I'm sitting here looking like a deer in headlights because I'm just sitting here thinking as you were saying that. When you consider, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I think you bring up a really good point. When you think about, coming into Formula One, gets the call up to go to Red Bull, goes to Red Bull, struggles first few races, they demote him back down to the RBs. Isaac's beating him. There's a lot going on there, and then to go into this race and say, oh, hey, we're going to sacrifice you on the Isaac Hadjar altar so you can get our boy Isaac into the points. That takes a lot of humility to do that. And you got to swallow a lot of pride to do that. So I agree. I think it's there's only one guy that comes out of this race with more confidence boosting than Norris got, and that's Liam Lawson. Yeah. I think it's a good point. I picked Charles. I think he delivered a stunning performance all weekend, and as I said, in a car that really wasn't interested in winning, and I think he over-delivered. I think it was a real Max Verstappen type of performance in my mind. To see what he pulled off. He looked fantastic all weekend long. Just didn't quite have the pace.
Consistent. I mean, he put in fast lap after fast lap when he needed to, and didn't put a foot wrong. It was impeccable.
Yeah, it was actually, and I know Charles, like I said, Charles isn't happy, but if you're listening, Charles, I think you did a hell of a job this weekend. You really, really did. Yep. Let's see. Let's do some mailbag real quick.
You've got mail.
Peter asked this, Paul, an honest question. Would either Paul or Todd have ever thought Flavio could return to an F1 team boss ever? It may be temporarily, but the moment he stepped into Alpine, the writing on Ollie's resignation letter was in the works. What'd you think, Paul?
I'd never underestimate Briatore.
I don't either.
Yeah, at my peril, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's. I mean, there's obviously a big opportunity for him to make a lot of money, and he doesn't mind being in the spotlight, and doesn't mind having a lot of people listen to what he has to say. So, and obviously that team's a struggle. So I'm not saying I expected it, but I'm also saying I wasn't surprised either. No,
I wasn't expecting it, but I'm like you. It doesn't surprise me at all. And as odd as this sounds, it wouldn't surprise me to see him turn the team around.
Right.
It just wouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
Because he comes at it so differently than everybody else.
He does.
So differently.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably doesn't even know how to put a lug nut on a wheel, honestly.
Right.
But he understands the scope of the business and he's learned, he learned it as he went along.
Yeah.
And he did make a lot of good decisions, made one very bad one, which kicked him out of the sport.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying he's the most
I thought you meant
person.
wearing a mankini, but yeah, you're right.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that was definitely a bad move.
That was a bad move, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast. Let us know what you think about the Monaco Grand Prix, or let us know, give us your ideas on how we might improve the Monaco Grand Prix. We gave you 9 suggestions that I've read, but if you've got some great ideas, be happy to discuss those as well. You can do that at theparkformay.com. And if you like the podcast, go out to your favorite podcast player and give us a nice rating and share it with friends. Tell people on social media about it. That would be really handy. We've been doing this a long time. It's always funny. We have such a loyal listener base, but it would be great to grow that. So share that. Spread the news, folks. That would be helpful. And
That'd be great.
A huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We could not and would not do this without you. So a huge thank you. And Paul, we head off to Spain.
Oh, is that next weekend?
This weekend. This coming weekend.
Oh, wow.
Spain.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Yes.
We like that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
This will be an
I'll
interesting.
be in Detroit, but I'll be able to watch it.
Sweet.
We race on Saturday.
You race on Saturday.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Just the Valkyrie this week.
Just the Valkyrie.
It's an easy. Yeah, just one car. Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't done that for a
No,
while.
you haven't. You only have to set your eyes and mind on one car instead of 3.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
Hopefully I don't bungle it like Mercedes.
Right. Go all Flavio on him, man.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week to talk about the Spanish Grand Prix. Until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out